So my first day on the job, and I thought I was going to go straight onto the shop floor with no experience. That's not the deal at all. Harrods, guys, is like a university. I mean, I've literally till today never experienced anything like Harrods and the way it trains and invests in its people. So basically, you don't even look at the shop floor. You don't get to go. It's in a separate building. You don't get to hit the shop floor until you do their training program. And in their training program, the people that were delivering it were, entertainers. I mean, they were animated, they were full of life and so passionate about, obviously, their roles, their job. They loved it. And they trained us on grooming and service and selling, of course, the history of Harrods, what made it unique, the experiences. They took us through role play. They took us through the entire 5 floors and the whole map of Harrods, their leadership team, the chairman, the vision, the values of the company. They taught us about, etiquette, how to meet and greet. They really, invested so much. And I think for me, that was the first time when I thought, oh my gosh, this, the power of investing in people is what resonated. That was the first time when I thought, and I'd experienced, my gosh, how much is this company investing in its team? They wanted to arm us with knowledge. They wanted to arm us with the confidence. There's no way that they were going to get us to go on the shop floor, speak to their customers, be brand ambassadors. That's the other thing. That's the first time I'd heard the word, you're an ambassador to Harrods. You represent the face of the brand. So all of that, days and days, of sort of investing in us and training us and making us do this role play until we lived and breathed the Harrods way, which is why we were called, Herodian. And so, going through this experience with them and understanding, this knowledge about brand and what Harrods represented and how really it was this exclusive place and how, first of all, we were so lucky to be actually part of this organization and part of the group. And so by the time we got to the shop floor, we were bursting to sell. We were bursting to basically, share what we had and exercise, what we'd learned. And we were just a group. I remember, certainly the people that were with me in my department, we were all just like, let us on the shop floor, let us become part of this. Let us really live this. And we also had this tremendous amount of confidence. Because we had the knowledge, because we understood what we're talking about, not necessarily, obviously, the brand itself and the departments that we were in, but definitely the environment that we were in and sort of the overall brand experience and, what the Egyptian hall meant and why the perfume hall was so incredible and why people would come to Harrods to shop the finest tea and what they were looking for exclusively. Everything from the toy department to the fashion department to the footwear department to the designer's room, to the ground floor. And they taught us, why certain things were laid out in the certain way that they did, and the whole sort of, door number 10 and door number 8 and the green man and the meet and greet and the specialty of why do we have a green man and, why do all these tourists. And they also taught us, the cultural side, how do you greet someone from the US and someone from the Middle East. And so all of that was their investment in us before we even got to the floor. And that for me was invaluable and sort of stayed with me really throughout my entire career, because understanding the value of investing in training and development is something that is really, you can't measure it, because you will see the impact and you can measure it through obviously the success of your business. But as an individual, for us to know that we were sort of worthy and that we were invested in, and somebody or a group or an organization really wanted to bring that value to us, was something, like I said, I'll carry every single day of my career. Now, I loved selling. I obsessively loved it. I loved engaging with my customers. I loved telling the brand story. And anytime, when the shop floor was quiet, I'd be going through the archives, going through the products, looking at, you know, all the different collections, trying to absorb as much as I could, you know, about the brands and about the textures and all the different things that I was obviously selling because I was in home furnishings. And I'd spend hours with my customers, really like getting completely involved and, you know, giving them a full interior design service, even though I was supposed to be just selling, you know, whatever rolls of material and wallpapers and all of that and furnishing accessories. But I would always go the extra mile, and I'd always be the one like, well, tell me a little bit about your home and what are you looking to redecorate it and how do you want to, you know, what's your style and what's your personal preference and then I would do these like mood boards for them. And so I started to sort of build this reputation with the customers that if they came to me, I'd always sort of go the extra mile. And I'd always be doing like mini mood boards for them and looking at different themes and sort of giving them like an interior design service, which they definitely weren't expecting. And so they loved that. And then every day when I'd sort of go to Harrods in the staff entrance, there's a wall and they'd have like the photos of all the different salespeople of the month, etc. on it. And I would look at that wall and I'd be like, oh my God, I desperately want my photo up there. I've got to get my photo up there. And so when I do the selling, it was never in my mind because it was sort of the commission base and I wanted to make sales because I wanted to earn a lot of commission. I was always about the selling. But then of course it so happened that sort of every month, obviously they're calculating your sales. And because I was always the one sort of selling the most, my commissions went up and I actually, you know, slam dunked it and I got to be on the Harrods, you know, wall of fame and achieved, you know, salesperson of the month. And then I achieved that for like 3 months consecutively. And I tell you, gosh, I wish I had like, you know, our phones with us than our smartphones so I could take photos. I mean, you know, you never think at the time, but every morning when I sort of come into the staff entrance and see my photo up there and salesperson of the month, I mean, that was a really proud moment for me. And something that, of course, you know, I'll never forget because that acknowledgement, you know, that recognition of my efforts was huge. And so that was also sort of the second learning, is that I understood that not only did this institute invest in its people and train them, but also when we worked hard and we did go that extra mile that I'm talking about, they would reward and recognize us. And that for me, you know, remember, I mean, I'd never had any experience, and then to sort of then experience the best of it was just unreal. So there it was, and they reward and recognize you in a number of ways, but putting your photo out there for 3,000 employees and directors, that was so important for me. Like 3,000 people would come into the staff entrance and our directors and even our chairman, and there would be my photo. And that was a huge acknowledgement from them to me, and, you know, boosted my confidence to no end, obviously. So that was, you know, really, really exciting for me. And then the second most, or the third, or the first, or whatever, in, you know, whatever placement it has, some of the most, some of the most incredible moments in my career have been with Harrods and my learnings. And one of the biggest ones is Hamid Al-Fayed himself, the chairman. So I had gone, you know, in my career, I've worked for Harrods twice. So this was the very first job that I had. And I remember as a salesperson standing there, and we'd all be told, you know, the chairman is coming round, and he would do these rounds with his leadership team and his directors every single day when he was in the country. And he'd do it once, or a minimum once or twice really. And he would actually go through the entire 5 floors of this huge department store and say hello and greet everyone on the shop floor. I mean, unbelievable. He would go around with a pocket full of candies and sweets, and he would engage with his customers. He'd stop there when he'd see children, he'd play with them, and then he would actually acknowledge us and come and speak to us and see how business was trading, and then listen to his customers and see if they had any, you know, complaints or what he could do to make it better. And there I was, this like salesperson standing there, and my chairman, you know, would be going around, even if he didn't speak to me. Just the fact that we would all be standing there to attention like soldiers, desperately waiting for, you know, the Fayed to come around to our department store and acknowledge us. And, you know, my goodness, he knew most everybody's names, which is baffling for me. I don't know how. And then, you know, he'd had this really fantastic sort of dramatic experience with the bagpipes. You know he was coming because first of all you'd hear, you know, the Scottish bagpipes playing and this sort of music throughout the whole you know, all of the department store. And then as it got closer to you, you knew that he was, you know, definitely closer as well. And then, you know, he would stand there, and like I said, he would talk to us and talk to the, you know, to the rest of the teams, and then speak to our buyers. And that was a huge moment. And then that, again, for me, my other learning from that is the power of emotionally engaging with everybody in your business and taking that time. You know, for him, it was a half hour, maybe an hour, you know, twice a day. But for us, it meant the world. I mean, it genuinely meant everything that my chairman was acknowledging, you know, the sales associate. And that's something, again, that I've carried with me throughout all of my career, because I know how important it is that, you know, when I take that time out and I, you know, spend my time on the shop floor, spend my time with my teams, no matter where, that means a huge amount for them. So I always make the time and effort, you know, to take a selfie and go spend time, not only because I'm learning from them and I'm listening to them, but also I know how important that is for them. And that's, you know, something that is invaluable for me, because it's also food for my soul as well. So, you know, being around the fire was incredible, and, you know, experiencing all of that was something, you know, to this day that I always reflect on.